Welcome back. The heat wave hitting parts of Europe continues for another day. Let's show you the heat map across Europe right now. More than half of France has been under a red heat alert. Tens of thousands of homes in the west without power. France's meteorological agency has again warned that temperatures will reach or exceed 40 degrees Celsius in parts of the centre and north of the country. Red heat alerts have also been in place for parts of northern Spain and Italy. Here in the UK, the Met Office has issued a new red severe weather warning for extreme heat for Friday, covering London and parts of southeast England. Let's take you to Pierre-Antoine Denis, our correspondent joining us from Antibes in the south of France, Kasia Madeira, our correspondent in Brighton in the south of England today. Both very hot places, and you've been struggling through the heat over the past couple of days. Pierre, is the end in sight?
Not really, Lucy. Actually, I wanted to broadcast just from there, showing you the town of Antibes, which is rather beautiful, but I was absolutely cooking, so I had to shelter around here to speak with you. It's the temperatures have only, if anything, sort of been rising here in this very part of the world. The temperatures are staying very close to 40 degrees in places like Paris or Bordeaux, densely populated areas. So I can let you imagine how that would impact everyone out there. Now, we're seeing also the eastern part of the country, cities like Strasbourg or Lille in the north of France, or everything at the border with Germany and Belgium, also seeing record temperatures. We're waiting for the official weather agency to confirm that, but it's looking on track to be that way. We're also now adding to it a yellow or orange warning for thunderstorms in the western part of the country, which is obviously normal, and this should happen on Friday. So we are bracing for that here in France. We're seeing a surge in admissions in hospitals, especially among under 40s. That's since the weekend. Probably people were wondering that this was just a heat, a nice hot weather weekend, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. And we've also seen a surge in calls to the emergency services, and that is a key factor here, because that's what the health minister in France has been pleading for, to try and not rush into A&E, overcrowd the hospitals, but rather than that, call the emergency services and see what the best options could be. So everyone is sort of trying to come to terms with this new reality and what actually should be done when we're feeling unwell.
Pierre, get back into the shade. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Kasia, over to you in Brighton. Lots of kids being kept home from school. It's causing all sorts of problems here in the UK as well. Some people really struggling with the heat. What have people been telling you in Brighton?
Well, it's not quite as hot here as it is where Pierre-Antoine is in Antibes, but I can tell you that the temperature is creeping up to 32 degrees already, and it is very hot. There is a breeze here on the seafront in Brighton and Hove, but it just does mean that people are encouraged to get into the water, which obviously has its own dangers. We know that yesterday a 50-year-old man lost his life in Wales after getting into the water in Aberavon Beach, a real popular tourist destination in Neath Talbot. The emergency services were called. They tried to resuscitate him, but unfortunately, sadly, tragically, he was pronounced dead at the scene. His next of kin are being informed. And it just goes to show how with these temperatures, it is tempting to get into the water. We've been witnessing lots and lots of people go into the channel just behind me, having a swim, taking their lilos in as well, which is absolutely not the right thing to do when you're at the seaside. Lilos are for the beach, but lots of people doing their best to keep cool. And Lucy, as you were saying, lots of schools either closed today or on half days, which makes it difficult for the parents. What do they do when they have to go to school? But when it comes to staying safe in the water, let's get some top advice from Ross McLeod. He's a water safety manager from the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. Ross, I've been witnessing people get into the seaside. I'm in Brighton with their lilos, with their inflatables. That's a no-no, surely, when it comes to the seaside.
Yeah, good afternoon. It sounds windy where you are, so absolutely. Taking inflatables into the sea doesn't sound like the best idea. So inflatables very much suited to the pool and keeping on the beach, but particularly if there's an offshore wind, people can get taken out to sea really quickly. So we'd recommend they stay on the beach, and generally speaking, people head to a supervised location. And we've seen from recent tragic events over half term, that combination of warm weather that we're seeing at the moment but really cold water temperatures still. And that's both around the coast, but also inland as well. So rivers, lakes, reservoirs, canals are extremely cold at this time of year. And when we're in a situation where there's the hot weather and the cold water, and particularly with the schools and many schools breaking up this afternoon, there's going to be a lot of young people looking to cool off in various places. So we're really urging parents to have that conversation with the young people in their life, particularly those teenagers that are going to be out exploring by themselves. Have that conversation with them, give them that little bit of knowledge around what they should be looking for and what to do in an emergency.
Yeah, it's really good advice, because despite the sun beating down on us here in Brighton, there is a breeze, and that can potentially take you out into deeper water. Just talk us through, we hear a lot about rip currents. What should people do if they find themselves in a rip current? Because arguably, I know I would be panicking, but that's not the right thing to do.
So if you do find yourself struggling in the water, and this can be any number of situations, if people are a bit overcome by the temperature, get caught in a rip current, or just generally get tired because the water is still very cold, we recommend people remember floating to live. So this is a really simple, proven life-saving technique where you lean back in the water and tilt your head back with your ears in. And that will help bring your legs up, and a little bit of gentle movement with your arms and legs if you need to. Relax and try and control your breathing. Don't worry if your legs start to sink. We all float really differently. So the key is to have a little practice, ideally in a supervised location such as a pool or a life-guided beach, and find what floating looks and feels like for you. And that way, if you ever did need it in an emergency, you would know what to do. And the other thing, particularly for anybody heading out to water or coastal locations, is what to do if somebody else looks like they're in difficulty as well. And that is simply phone, float, throw. So phone 999, get emergency services there as soon as possible. Tell that person in the water to float, as I just described, and then throw them a piece of rescue equipment to help keep them afloat and buy them vital seconds and minutes to stay afloat until emergency services can arrive.
Ross, thanks so much. Really invaluable advice there. Ross McLeod, Water Safety Manager for the RNLI. Thank you so much. And that's important to have those conversations, especially with teenagers, because yes, it is hot. Yes, they do want to get into the water, but especially on days like today, that water is so cold. I've tested it out. It is freezing. It's really hot out here, so that difference in body temperature is dangerous. So the message for young people especially is be careful, don't go swimming alone, make sure somebody knows where you are, keep one person out of the water, so if you do get into difficulties, you can dial for the emergency services. It is 32 degrees here now in Brighton. Handing back to you, Lucy.
Kasia, thank you. A London meeting on how to adapt to extreme heat has fallen victim to the very problem it aimed to address. A series of sessions at London Climate Action Week was set to explore how countries and cities are responding to rising global temperatures. However, organisers had to cancel the event after the Met Office issued a red warning for extreme heat, as we've been discussing. Well, with me is Carla Hill, who is Chief Programme Officer at E3G, a climate think tank that founded the London Climate Action Week. Good to have you with us. So disappointing that this has happened, but I wonder if it is also a moment, because Antonio Guterres said the other day that crisis brings clarity. We are now razor focused on our warming planet.
Yes, absolutely. And the UN Secretary General was in London this week, and he said London is cooking, but also that we need to address the twin crises of the energy crisis and the climate crisis together. So we take extreme heat extremely seriously, and it can be dangerous, it can be disruptive, as your report has just shown there, with people going into the water. But some of our events at London Climate Action Week, we've got more than 1,300 events taking place across London this week. And a handful of them have had to make changes to their plans and postpone or cancel.
Carla, isn't one of the biggest problems that we think about adaptation, what needs to change, what's happening with the planet? We're in the grip of a heat wave, but it's going to cool down next week and then people move on. How much is that an issue, that things need to change now, because this is the future? We're looking at this being the new normal.
Absolutely, and I don't think we should see it as the new normal, right? And as you say, it needs to be a wake-up call.
Yeah, but we're going to have more and more heat waves, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the last hot summer. We've had 10 of the hottest years on record, and it's only going to continue. Schools are closed this week. It sends a message that we need to indeed invest. The Mayor's heat plan this week said that 1 million homes in London could be at risk of overheating.
What's the biggest sort of thing we need to do in terms of adaptation in Western Europe?
So we need to invest in the solutions to make our buildings and our infrastructure more resilient. So that's one of the conversations that will be unfolding at London Climate Action Week this week. But, we also want to send a message with London Climate Action Week to people in London, not only to our leaders that they need to do more, but also that everyone can be part of the solution, and actually that there is a lot of climate action happening. So we've got all of those events. It's the largest climate action event in the world this year, but there's clean tech investment, there's green jobs, and there's a growing green economy in the UK of more than 15% growth in the last 2 years.
So give us some examples for Londoners who live and work in the city. What can they do to make a difference?
Well, I would love to see people asking the Mayor of London and their local leaders and their leaders in Westminster who have all been gathering and focusing on London Climate Action Week, voting on climate action in Parliament, what they're doing and how are they going to make sure that we're responding to the climate crisis. So people have their voice and they can also participate in London Climate Action Week through London's boroughs, parks, at Kew Gardens, at the Globe Theatre. So this is really what we've tried to create over the last 7 years with London Climate Action Week, is a moment for Londoners to come together, but then to continue the action. The action is very deliberate.
Okay, Carla, thank you so much. Good to have you with us. As Antonio Guterres said, crisis does bring clarity. Everyone thinking about the rising temperatures at the moment and what needs to be done. We'll be live in Venezuela coming up. Stay with us on BBC News.